YouTube violent community, Beach Boys fans, random people on the internet. My name is Giggens, and we are here today to finally talk about SMiLE. Now, I'm currently holding the massive, gigantic box set of this thing, but I'm not going to for the whole video, because believe it or not, this thing has a lot of weight to it, so we're just going to take the record out. There we go. Much easier. As almost everyone who's a Beach Boys fan knows, the story of SMiLE is both incredibly exhilarating and creative and inspiring, but also tragically sad. It's the album that never was. It's the album that was going to be something absolutely mind-blowing. Everyone was ready for it. Everyone was waiting for it. And then it just never showed up. It's an album that I go back to fairly often, and it leads me down that rabbit hole of the constant question for the Beach Boys: what if? What if SMiLE was finished? What if it came out? What would their storyline have been like? How would the band have changed? Would they have kept going after this album? Like, there's so much you can go into with this record. And I'm not going to go too deep into the history of the making of this thing, because I've talked about that in other videos with everyone you've seen so far over the last month of these topic videos, and then chatting with people. You kind of get the idea. So this review will be mostly about the music, just the album review. I will say, though, the lead up to this album, Brian Wilson in particular, having written so many incredible pieces of work, and then getting the Pet Sounds, and the record company just not being behind him on that one, and then putting out Good Vibrations, and it went to #1, and it was in the charts for a long time. They were on this wave of creativity where they were changing music, changing how pop music was thought of. Good Vibrations did a lot overnight to change the music world. It was a masterpiece, a mind-blowing song. It still is to this day one of the most incredible pieces of pop music ever created. The layers, the changes, the different sections, the way it was constructed in this modular way, everything about it was forward-thinking and progressive, but still instantly digestible pop music. That's how you do it the right way. With SMiLE, Brian had met Van Dyke Parks, and he loved how Van Dyke talked. And he was like, "You're really good with words. Do you want to write lyrics?" And Van Dyke was like, "Yeah, sure, let's do it." So they got together in the summer of '66, and this is before Good Vibrations had come out, and they started working together, and the music just flowed. It was just organic. It just happened so naturally and so easily for these guys. They were just on fire, writing songs together. You know, Brian would do the music, Van Dyke would do the lyrics, they'd probably chime in here or there on each other's stuff. And that was it. It was a well-oiled machine. The Beach Boys were out on tour. Brian was home, as had been his MO for the last few albums at this point. So he knew what he was doing. And he knew that his flow would work for the guys as it had albums prior. So for him, this was like, cool, my next phase, my next experimentation. Brian was really spontaneous at this point. He was really into comedy and humor, and he wanted to incorporate his love of the arts that he was discovering from the people he was hanging out with and his own sort of humor, and make something together out of that. So when he started working with Van Dyke, they were aware of how British music was taking over the charts, and they were like, what if we write something kind of American? But the world wasn't necessarily a fun place in the 60s. So he was like, what if we write something kind of like reconstructive? Or what if we kind of tell a different tale, a different narrative, but make it a fun history or a fun America or something uplifting or hopeful? What if we can just change our story around a little bit? And so they came up with this title of Dumb Angel. And the other guys were like, change it around, make it something more upbeat. SMiLE. One word. And if you had seen this record sitting on the shelf in 1967, you would have been like, what is this beautiful, colorful image? Who are these people behind this shop glass? What's the story with this thing? This album cover has always blown my mind. Ever since I was a little kid and first discovered SMiLE, I've always looked at this cover and been like, what music is trapped inside here? SMiLE is an album that takes you on a journey, whether that's a journey from Plymouth Rock to Hollywood, Los Angeles, whether it's a mental journey of the ups and downs you're going to go through as you grow up. It's an album that begs to be listened to over and over again, because you're not going to get the answers the first time around. It's a fascinating record. And is there a story involved? Is there a loose story? Are we supposed to put the pieces together and make the story ourselves? SMiLE is an open concept. I don't believe SMiLE is an open and shut case. I think it's something that we take for ourselves and work with. I don't believe it's all laid out for us to just be like, this is the whole thing. I don't think that's the point with SMiLE. I think it's supposed to be open-ended for us to just talk about and experience and listen to and enjoy and find our own deeper appreciation and find its own story within us. That, for me, is SMiLE, which I think is also a fitting title because you're doing it for yourself. And when you do something cool for yourself, hopefully it makes you smile. Anyways, let's get into this because I know this is something that's been requested for 5 years. Let's talk about the music with SMiLE, shall we? No pressure. It opens up with Our Prayer, which is one of the most gorgeous pieces of work ever made. It is stunning. It's from the heavens. It's emotional yet euphoric. It's despondent, but absolutely joyous at the same time. And it's what Brian meant when he said that one day he was going to write music that people would pray to. This is one of those songs. The harmonies shimmer and glow, and there's so much emotion and affection and storytelling just in Oz. It's an amazing track. It grips you. That striking first note is so in your face and so like, whoa, what am I listening to? It instantly gets beamed down. It's brilliant. It really is. Which morphs into G, which is a bouncy little thing just to get you in the mood for what's going to happen next, which is Heroes and Villains, which is one of the most astoundingly, head-scratchingly, amazingly odd choices for a single ever. Probably the most quote-unquote single-worthy song on this record, but a single nonetheless. It is eerie, it's creepy, it's chill. It's also beautiful and happy. It explodes sometimes. It's also quiet sometimes. It's a fascinating, crazy song. It is a weird song. To this day, ever since I was a kid hearing this track, especially when it gets to the chorus, you're like, what is this eerie sound? What is this? The cool thing about the album version, though, is you get the whole cantina bit, you get the You're Under Arrest bit, so it's a longer version on the record as compared to the single. But densely layered harmonies, densely layered instruments. In terms of construction and just fascination, this song is absolutely mind-blowing. What a crazy song. Fascinating song. Do You Like Worms, which would be later called Roll Plymouth Rock. This literally sounds like a ship fighting the waves, as if they're like getting bounced back and forth. It just sounds, ocean-like. But that feeling is so well presented, and it again leads to different motifs. That Heroes and Villains motif kind of pops up here and there throughout the record. It's kind of like the overture, if you will. It just shows up. The harpsichord is almost sinister on this thing. It's such a well-constructed song. Again, kind of what Brian is known for. You don't even need words on some of these songs, which again, some of them never even had vocals or words. And the music itself is just as compelling without them. And it's instantly something that stays in your head. I'm in great shape. The reverb is on this thing is so trippy. It's short and sweet, just a quick little song that goes into Barnyard, which is just animal sounds and then working away. Just a bit of psychedelic fun here. It's, for me, this is kind of like the Americana theme of farming and agriculture and just, exercise and working for yourself and, basically the foundations of America, building up its farming industry. My Only Sunshine comes next, and it's sad and lonely, and Dennis on vocal here is just incredible. His voice is perfect for this song. The strings on it are fantastic. The horns kind of melt back to that Heroes and Villains refrain. It's a really sad song, but it's also beautiful because of that. And I'm glad that Denny was the one who sang it, because his voice on it is just perfect. Then you get Cabanescence, which for me, I would say is the first, complete song in a handful of short tracks. Cabanescence, Carl's on lead here. The banjo on this is great, because how many times do you hear a banjo on a Beach Boys song? But the feelings on this track are constantly changing. That repeated group refrain is so powerful and steadfast. It feels like you're stuck on a train, just plowing through, building towns as you go. It's a frantic track, and then it's also hypnotic and, again, densely layered musically. Just another track that takes you on into a journey. It is its own little world. It's a really cool song. And also famously was the whole bit about Mike asking Van Dyke, what do these lyrics mean over and over? The crow cries, uncover the cornfield. What does it mean? And Van Dyke being like, I don't know, they're just lyrics. Throw them out if you want. Great. This album's getting made. Then you get Wonderful, which is sweet and pure, straight from Brian's heart. The harpsichord and vocal are great. It's just earnest and digestible. Wonderful for me, I would have loved to have seen this as a single. Like, this would have been a really cool choice as a single. It wouldn't have worked, but it's just a really nice song. Then you get Look, which has that child is the father of the man refrain, which kind of comes back more and more throughout the rest of the record. Punchy and elated. The chimes really take it home for me on this one. It's a nice song with a lot of changes, and I really dig that feel. And then the actual song, Child is the Father of the Man, continues the themes, I guess, from the last one. We're also introduced to that Halloween piano riff. Dun, 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 dun. It's just creepy and eerie and from a different dimension. Like, how the hell do you write something like that? I wonder if there were more words for this one. And then you get to Surf's Up, which is probably the most beautiful song on the record. An absolute triumph in songwriting. It is one of the most incredible things I've ever heard. It's the crown jewel of the album. It's the heart of the ocean. It's just Brian's voice, Carl's voice. Everything about this song is majestic. The lyrics are incredibly poetic. And the music for me feels like it's alone and it's trying to stay calm because it's scared. But it's also got moments where it feels really, really happy that it like figured itself out sometimes. For me, Surf's Up is one of those tracks that like, when you discover SMiLE and you hear that piano demo of Brian just playing it by himself, or that video of him in the Leonard Bernstein special where he's just playing the piano by himself and singing Surf's Up, it's one of those moments you don't forget. Because for me, Surf's Up encapsulates SMiLE. Surf's Up is SMiLE. It is this beautiful tapestry, this open canvas that continues to be painted over and over and over again. And then you get to that repeated refrain at the end. You know, it's gorgeous. It's just a song it's either about endings or new beginnings or both. Again, another song that's open for interpretation, and we're all the better for it. But something that if anybody wrote just one song, and if Surf's Up was the one song that you wrote, you can retire from music because that's a perfect song. Up next, I Want to Be Around. No lyrics or vocals on this one, just a calm, it's probably the lightest song on the album, like musically light. It definitely has like a feel that would have worked well in 65 or 66. I can see the song on Pet Sounds. And then Vegetables, playful, sing-songy, full of humor. This is Brian pulling our leg, basically. That odd timing for the percussion, very Brian. Piano bopper, Al on lead. At one point was chosen as a single. Terrible choice for a single. Great song. Love it to death. Terrible single. Then you get Holidays. Another one without words from 1967, which we get finished up later on a holiday, as it would be called. Upbeat, fun, great to hear. More happy music. Because for a handful of songs here, things are kind of sad. And then the last couple of songs are more upbeat. The vibes, the xylophone on this thing is a great touch. The woodwinds are carefree. A very easy, breezy, happy song. Sounds like a holiday. Great track. Wind Chimes. Carl on the lead. Gorgeous track. It's calm, reflective, and patient. And then it gets bombastic in that chorus. That doo 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 doo. It's so freaking fun. A total 180 for the rest of the song. Which is a nice transition. Because after that, you jump into the Fire tapes. And easily the most terrifying song they ever recorded. It sounds like fire. They made the strings sound like fire trucks with their sirens on. The flames and the burning of buildings with those humongous, dense drums pounding away. The vocals in the background sounding like literal screams or moans or groans. It is insanely beautiful, but it's a scary song. They really captured something. I remember hearing the Brian Wilson Presents SMiLE album, and hearing Fire on that one, Mrs. O'Leary's Cow, as it's called on that one, and thinking, wow, this is a really good track. This sounds cool. And then I remember hearing this version, and I remember feeling like, this song is freaky, man. Like, I get why Brian was freaked out by it. There's a vibe on this one that just sounds eerie. Very eerie. Then you get to Love to Say Dada, which is a very early version of Cool Cool Water, which would show up later on in Sunflower, but something they'd work on over the next handful of months. Definitely during the Wild Honey era as well. Very hymn-like, very meditative. I love the wood block and the drums. Brian's got some minimal vocals going on. Very pretty song. Couldn't have fit on Friends with no problem. And it's got a little ending coda of Our Prayer Again before it falls into Good Vibrations, the closing song on the album. And like I said earlier, it's a pop masterpiece. You know, it's the culmination of the journey of this album. You kind of basically travel through time, you know, starting off with Plymouth Rock with the Pilgrims and working your way through, you know, time and space and the history of America to get to, I guess, groovy 1966. What can you say about Good Vibrations? It's one of the most incredible things ever written. The construction of the song being put together in pieces. Brian hearing different versions of it in his head. The guys putting vocals down and being like, is this going to work? And that famous Bruce quote where he was like, this is going to be either the song that kills us or it's going to go number one. Like, what's a number one? You know, it's for a song that has so many movements where it gets really quiet and almost church-like, then it gets humongously joyous. It is a crowning achievement of a track. And for a song like that to go to number one really speaks to, one, the times, but two, the guys putting in the effort and knowing that they had something really different and special in their hands, but in a way that people would accept it. Not just because the name The Beach Boys was on it, but because this was it was a moment. Good Vibrations was a moment. And it's still going. So this is the record. Obviously, this is not how it would have looked. I mean, kind of. I mean, this is slightly how it would have looked. But the back cover would have been like this as well. The song's not in order yet because they were basically, Capitol Records was like, all right, December of 66, cool, we'll get it put out. And Brian was like, nah, not yet. And they were like, all right, how about March? So basically they wanted to put these things out as fast as possible to capitalize on the success of Good Vibrations. It's a smart business move. You get a big hit single, put it on the album that's going to come out pretty soon after. The inside cover of this one, great shot of the guys. Mike was just starting to grow his beard there. Well, I guess he had one during Pet Sounds for a little bit, so he must have shaved it off at this point. But yeah, I love that inner sleeve shot. And let me show you the actual LP itself. So obviously on this box set, you know, the reissue from 2011, they call it the SMiLE Sessions. Let me take it out of the sleeve for you. So it's not just called SMiLE, it's called the SMiLE Sessions because it's got all the other stuff they did on it, all the demos and alternate takes and, you know, session work. It's a really incredible box set. And it's special to have because for so long, you know, we just had these muddy sounding bootlegs circulating. So to have something concrete, to me, it's still mind blowing. You know, I remember buying the record and the CDs when they came out back in 2011 and thinking to myself, wow, I just bought the Beach Boys SMiLE at a store. This is really cool. One of my favorite bits about the original record was the artwork that would have come with it. And so it would have come with a nice booklet with some amazing pictures of the guys. And this was really, really faithfully put together. I think what blows my mind the most about SMiLE is that the effort that went into it and the work that was involved, they knew, well, Brian knew, that they had something incredibly special on their hands. And with the right amount of time, the right amount of effort, and the right amount of people surrounding Brian, it could have been finished. But by the early part of 67, basically some of the guys weren't really too keen on what they were hearing because you got to contextualize it. These are the guys that 18 months earlier were bopping along singing California Girls and Help Me Rhonda. And then Pet Sounds got a little weirder. And then to put this thing out was a complete 180. Yeah, Brian was firing on all cylinders looking for the future, but a lot of their fans were 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds, or teenagers. if I was 14 going to the store picking up this and I was a huge Beach Boys fan and didn't understand the world of music outside of pop, I would have heard this for the first time and be like, what is this? Granted, it would have grown on me over the years, but like it would have been humongously different to pick up. Or maybe people were ready for it. Times were changing pretty rapidly back then, so it could have just been something that people were ready for at the time. I wasn't there. I don't know. What I'm trying to say is that SMiLE fell apart. The guys who were working on it, basically Van Dyke Parks, got fed up with being told his lyrics were this and that. So he was like, I'm out of here. I'm done. And that's kind of when it fell apart for Brian. His main buddy, his main songwriting partner was gone. And so the album felt directionless. This is unfinished. Several songs on this thing don't have words, or I'm sure they would. And they did on the Brian Wilson Presents SMiLE record. So you got to wonder how this could have gone, because he had been working in the studio basically up until May of 67. And in the press, the guys were saying, yes, SMiLE's coming out, SMiLE's coming out. But behind the scenes, he was canceling more and more studio time. He just wasn't feeling it. He was really getting burnt out. He was just tired of it. And I think pressure from the record company, pressure from the guys, Van Dyke leaving, everything just wasn't working anymore. Whereas this project started with so much hope and optimism and so many people in his pocket cheering him on, and they'd hear this stuff and be like, this is great, you're going to change music. And all these people started to disappear. His whole group was gone. All his friends that he was working with, he was tight with all his people, were just disappearing. I think he just lost steam. I don't think drugs play a humongous impact on the demise of this record. People make that claim all the time that, drugs are what ruined SMiLE. I don't think so. I think Brian was extremely dedicated to the cause. And when you're working on something you really, really believe in, and you tell people about it, and they're really into it with you, and then they stop being into it, or they lose interest, or they stop talking to you, you start to feel like, well, what happened? Is this supposed to be a thing that I'm supposed to do? If no one's here, aren't we all doing this together? You're gone. How am I supposed to work on this now? I think it was a matter of just people dropping out of his circle and him losing interest. I think that's what killed SMiLE. We'll never have a definitive answer, put it that way. It's one of those Beach Boys mysteries that unless you were in the inner circle at that time, they know. We'll never know the true answer. So for me, SMiLE is an incredible record and easily a 10 out of 10. It's one of the best things ever created in the history of pop music. It's extremely experimental. It's extremely inspirational. It's something I go back to over and over again to be like, I wonder what I can write today. Maybe I'll put SMiLE on and maybe something will happen. It's a record that will always fascinate, and it's a record that will always blow people's minds. It's always fresh. It's always current. Nothing sounds like SMiLE, and nothing ever will, because it'll feel like a pale imitation. It'll feel like someone just trying to look or sound like Brian Wilson. You can't do it. No one can. It's like trying to write Beethoven or Mozart songs. It's just not going to work. Don't do it. SMiLE is its own creature, its own animal. And it's one of those albums that the myth of the record will sell it alone. And then you get to hear the music. And then you get to read the story. It's happy. It's tragic. It's beautiful. It's the Beach Boys' SMiLE, the album that never was. And if you haven't heard it, please listen to it. If you have heard it, put it on again. And look for different things in it, because you'll hear different stuff every time you play it. It's incredible. 10 out of 10. Let me know what you guys think about this thing in the comments below. Very stoked to chat about this record with you guys. It's been a long time coming for this one, and I hope I did it justice. I tried. Beach Boys, if you're watching this, love you guys. Thank you so much for putting this music out. It means the world to us fans to be able to hold SMiLE and look at it and enjoy it and talk about it. It is one of the best things you guys ever did. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Giggens. This has been a very long video. Thank you for being here. Beach Boys SMiLE, 10 out of 10. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care of yourselves. See ya.